This is the College Football Show presented by AT&T 5G. And Fitz and I were here talking about pregame dancing and how much we enjoy it. But Bo Nix was doing all the dancing in their game against Texas A&M. And he is scooting into the end zone. All kinds of power on the back end. It may be sacrilegious for me to say that this reminded me of Deshaun Watson. But I know Deshaun Watson would make a play just like that. It
reminded me of Danny Kaye. Tap dancing?
Oh.
Tap dancing.
I don't know how many old references Jason Fitz is going to make on this show. There's more coming up later. I can assure you of that.
I know you got an intro to the show, but let's give my guy some credit because Santa Claus looks jacked today.
I'm just saying.
And we know that Santa Claus was lifting, getting ready for the whole sack. But I'm just saying, if I'm Rudolph and I see you coming up looking like that, I'm like, nah, I'm good.
Santa
I'm not pulling that sleigh.
Buys and tries. Just know that. Know that. This is the College Football Show presented by AT&T 5G. We are responsible for getting you caught up on all things Week 14. We are multi-pronged in our approach. Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and the ESPN app. Treavor Scales, Jason Fitz, and Fitzy. Speaking of that play, I think we can talk a little football after we've gotten the uncomfortable compliments out of the way.
Well, I mean, your shoes with the shirt, too. All right, let's get to Texas A&M taking on Auburn today. Coming out of the – they were getting hyped just like we were. You just saw it. You get to see it again because Swiggity Swooty, he's coming for that booty. Look at him running around. Oh, Bo Nix. Bo giveth. Bo taketh away on this one. Bo giveth.
Why do we have to use that? Like, that is a tone setter for you in this show.
Swiggity Swooty coming for that booty's becoming like my thing. It's
you
my
double
line.
Down on it.
And he just did it again. More. Booty means treasure, right? Like, all right. So all of a sudden,
clarification.
Kellen Mond almost intercepted here, but then you're reminded that the reason some guys play defensive back is because they can't catch. Gets to the wide receiver. That's a touchdown. Puts A&M up. Later on, they're up 21-20 here. This is a pretty little pass here. Kellen Mond drops back, finds Nia Smith for a big 38-yard gain. Smith reacted to it, but he's not done yet. He's like, you know what's better than the big catch? I don't know. The big score, 4-yard touchdown. This game was tight. This game was close. The number 5 team in all the land didn't always look like it, but they get the 31-20 win over Auburn.
Speaking of games that were close, this was not. Ohio State. Yeah, fooled you on the team. Justin Fields, very capable of running, and he flashed that ability against Sparty today. Early in the first, gets in to put the Buckeyes on the board. They have a 7-0 lead there, and then off the zone read action, defensive end, I'm sorry for you. Safety coming up the field, I'm sorry for you as well. 44-yard gain, stiff arm on the back end. The very next play in this drive, after we check it out, the reaction, everything was a pass from Justin Fields to Garrett Wilson, who also has a stiff arm of his own. They go up 14-0 off of that game. So, 10 minutes to go in the half. It was all Buckeyes, and it continued to be. Justin Fields once again on the ground, 1-yard score, 21-0. Now the Spartans have a chance to, not have to give up the sticks on Madden. And no. Pick 6, and it was one of those 0-yard returns because my man Haskell Garrett gets the paw up, reels it in.
Mike Golick Jr.'s new phrase, thick six.
I was saving that. Damn it, Fitz. I was saving that for the holy cow. Well done. It was great, though. And Ohio State goes up 28-0. 6:25 remaining in the third. Trey Sermon, Oklahoma transfer. I forgot all about him until they made that clear for us, and I didn't address it on this highlight, but I want to make sure I do. Justin Fields ran all the way down that field and got a block on his own read it. It was incredible.
Just for the heck of it.
That's fine. I can talk over that because it was like one of the few scores that Sparty had on the day. We're moving on. 8:22 in the fourth. More Justin Fields just absolutely hooping. Chris Olave on the receiving end of that touchdown to lead 45-10. And I believe it was and one. Did we get an and one call here? Yes. LA!
You know this isn't basketball. They can't
Doesn't matter.
Hoop nor and one.
It was definitely an and one.
Okay.
Don't question it. CJ Stroud steps in for Justin Fields, tacks on a little extra. Buckeyes win 52-12. BYU and Coastal Carolina, a fun game on paper, and it turned out to be just that. Early on, CJ Marble fights his way through BYU defenders for the 6-yard score to put the Chanticleers up 6-0. Oh, the replay here, you see a little patience, right? And then we go straight to power, just all the way through there. I'm sure his offensive linemen's ribs are a little hurt, but that is neither here nor there. BYU would respond with the touchdown of their own. Tyler Algier takes off 42 yards to the crib to get the Cougars the 7-6 lead after the extra point. Now, 4 minutes and change left in the half. Diving in is Reese White, and it's 14-13 at the half.
All right, let's get to West Virginia taking on Iowa State. Oh, these helmets are sensual. They are so good. All right, Brock Purdy hands it off to Breece Hall. Breaks free for a 23-yard touchdown run, making it look easy. Big score for Iowa State. They go up early in this one. Purdy says the only thing purdier than that handoff is me keeping it myself for my own Purdy little touchdown. I never get tired of it. Cyclones go up 14-0. It got ugly, 42-6 for Iowa State. Big win for them.
And as we check in on the ACC once again, Notre Dame taking care of biz. I know they're up 24 here, but that doesn't mean that the chests weren't collectively tight amongst Notre Dame faithful early on in this one, right, Fitz?
Yeah, this game was a little closer than we anticipated. At one time, I realized I was texting Mike Golick Jr. mid-game, and that was a mistake because this looked for a little while like Notre Dame forgot to wake up. Then when they did wake up, they were reminded that Rex Culpepper was a turnover machine today. Had some issues there. So not the best day for Syracuse. They get that butt whooped.
Without question. You said you were mad about eating that crow last week early on in this one. I found that hilarious.
Yeah.
Other action that we checked in on, Florida and Tennessee. This one final as well. The number 6 team in the nation takes care of business against Tennessee down in Vol Country. Kyle Traskman just continues to do Heisman-esque numbers, and it is just the ability of him to spread the ball around and make sure everybody gets a little love in that receiving and tight end core, courtesy of Kyle Pitts, to make sure that offense just goes.
Yeah, there's never going to be a question about the Florida offense. The question is how great can their defense be? This game looked a little curious in the beginning, but for me, man, it's usually a reminder of how great Florida-Tennessee used to be. Like there was a moment where Florida-Tennessee was a destination game. You stopped everything on college football Saturday to watch. Shame on the Vols for not figuring out a way to be more relevant so that we can continue that rich tradition at this point.
I will say it's still a pretty matchup to watch just jersey-wise and color scheme-wise on the screen. I don't want to take anything away from that. I know that's not much.
Yeah, when the jerseys are prettier than the football being played, it tells you how bad things have gotten in Knoxville.
Touche. So those are some of the games that were played, some that weren't. Vanderbilt and Georgia was one of the big ones postponed due to COVID-19 cases within the Commodores program. They still have that open week. Now, if Georgia somehow qualifies for the SEC championship, then that game goes away. That is the only of note thing. Maryland and Michigan and Northwestern and Minnesota both canceled, courtesy of the stranglehold that the Big Ten has on their schedule limitations. And so Michigan, obviously being the opponent for the Buckeyes next week, at least for now, is where this conversation kind of tilts into dangerous territory. And
right. See, this is the concern because remember, the last game left for Ohio State on the schedule is Michigan, right? And so there is at least the chance here that Michigan, depending on what's happening for COVID, we'll see what their situation is. But if Michigan can't play that game, then Ohio State is suddenly in a situation where they may not have an opponent. If they don't play 6 games, as you've heard all week, if they don't play 6 games, they cannot play in the Big Ten championship game. It would take a mass number of cancellations, very complicated. But for the basic easiness of it, if they don't play 6, they don't get into the Big Ten championship game. Now, the question is, what's that mean for the playoff? Because remember, the College Football Playoff Committee has not told you they have a minimum number of games. With that being said, on Rankings Reaction, which you can watch Tuesday nights with me, Mike Golick Jr., and Christine Williamson at 8 p.m. right here, the same way you watch this, we talked to Gary Barta, the chair of the committee, and I asked him specifically if the number of games being played by Ohio State is a factor in a discussion in the room. This is what he said.
Well, there's no doubt that in 2020, because of the pandemic, we're trying to evaluate teams, some who have played 3 or 4 games, and try to compare them to teams who have played 8, 9, 10 games, and that's a problem. It's a challenge for sure. But we just sit down right now, and when you look at Ohio State, we take the information we have, the games that they've played. We look at their explosiveness on offense. They did beat the number 12 team in Indiana, so that body of work is there, and there's no doubt that it's going to become a part of the evaluation. It was a part of the evaluation. That's the number of games played, and it'll be unique to 2020, but we are going to have to consider it. The championship game in any conference is one of the criteria that we evaluate. So if there's no championship game, we'll just have to evaluate without that championship.
Think of the important things. That's Gary Barta. He's the committee chair. He's new to this committee, and this committee has some new members. He said two things that are important to me there, Treavor. One is he said at the end, conference championships are important. Now, we haven't always seen that in the past, right? Like, there's been that conversation. Two, he said number of games is already a factor in this discussion. So he's telling you, what they say is important here. Gary Barta's a smart man. He's telling you in this process that, yeah, you need to get the game played, and you need to get into a conference championship. Without those things, the committee will hold that against Ohio State. So after hearing that, all I kept thinking, man, is if I'm an Ohio State fan, I'm more nervous than ever.
You have to be, because you understand that regardless of how good the sample is, the sample size just isn't going to be large enough. And I think we can certainly extrapolate the fact that, like, this is one of the four best teams in the nation when it comes to roster construction, when it comes to what they can do offensively, and when their defense wants to show some act right, they can certainly play ball with the best of them as well. But we talk about this all the time, Fitz. You put it wonderfully before. It is the four best of the most deserving. And we have to sort of draw that line, and that's what the committee is in the process of doing. And we don't know if we can determine that to be one of the criteria that Ohio State fits if they have 5 games on the schedule. That's just a fact of the matter, even in what is already a limited season.
I think that's the hardest part. You asked me as we were prepping, is Ohio State a top 4 team? I believe they are.
Yeah.
Is Ohio State deserving? That's tougher. And I'll go, this is the example I'll use multiple times tonight. I'll use it every week for people to remember. A few years ago, the Sam Darnold year at USC, they started 0-3. Then they went on a run. By the end of the year, they were clearly a playoff team, but they had losses, so it didn't matter. In my mind, I'm not sure how this is different. Ohio State's clearly a playoff team, but if they don't have a body, they don't have losses. But if they don't have a body of work, the heck do you do if you're in the committee?
No, yeah, it's the Venn diagram, right? Big Venn diagram guy, like the 2 circles, right? And the area that meets in the middle of most deserving and best teams in the nation, that's where you have to fall in line. And I don't know if Ohio State has quite crossed over from the best 4 into that middle portion of the Venn diagram.
I need you to be honest with America right
now.
Go
ahead.
You are a very smart human being. You went to Harvard. Did you use the compass for your Venn diagram? Like, did you freehand it or
have
compass?
it down? And
You've.
I like perfect circles. Sue me. I don't know what to tell you.
All right, so
this is the College Football Show presented by AT&T 5G. So if we lose out on Ohio State being in the top 4, we gotta have a 4th team slide in there. Who better than Texas A&M, according to the committee in these most recent rankings? But in my opinion, and I never thought they should have been put in this position to begin with, I am not sold on them being the 5th best team. And their win over Auburn, though impressive in the way that they were able to get things done offensively on the ground, I still am not sold on them being number 5 in all of the land in college football.
The funniest thing is I can already hear SEC fans, like, that GIF where they're saying the cat at the keyboard. Like, and already, it's a conference rivalry game. I love how every fan base will turn around and say, it's tough to win in this conference, and then never acknowledge it's tough to win in the other conferences. Like this, look, I get it's a conference game, but you're absolutely right. Did anybody, if you take your fan hat off for a second, did you watch A&M today and say, oh, that is the 5th best team, or that should be the 4th best team? The A&M team I watched today would get their butts kicked by Ohio State. Not just beaten, they would get their butts kicked by Ohio State.
And oh, by the way, they already got their butts kicked by Alabama earlier this year. And we talked about it before the show even started. I can't feel comfortable that the gap between 1 and 4 is a 28-point game. I don't know if I can quite rationalize that. And I want to make sure I give credit to TAMU because they have grown over the course of the season. They have shown that they are more than that 28-point loss.
But Alabama's grown over the course of the season, too.
So who's to say that gap ain't the same? So it's like, it's just a matter of understanding that we have to make sure that when we're looking at these teams, right, and understanding the benefit of the doubt that we often want to give the SEC, there also has to be a level of performance and like sort of standardizing that we do across all of these leagues because to your point, it is tough to win in every single conference in college football.
Yeah, but ain't a single Texas A&M fan sitting around saying, oh, I don't know, Indiana getting that big win over Wisconsin, that's a tough game, right?
Gritty win.
But there is some level of, and you're right, absolutely. I want to give credit to the fact that programs have gotten better. I want to give credit to the way they played. The other thing that we do have to acknowledge is it is 2020. It is a new committee. Maybe this committee will forgive a blowout. It's just never happened before. Right. So there's a moment of like, okay, maybe history is going to be made today or this year. Maybe, but it's never happened before. So until I see it, A&M completely. By the way, you like this tease? You like this tease? Later on in the show, we should take some time and tell everybody who we think has the best shot at making the college football playoff.
That's good. This is the College Football Show, presented by AT&T 5G. Treavor Scales, Jason Fitz here with you. And as we kind of look at that TMU example of them potentially landing into that top spot, what about them has to change? What is their path then in order to get into that top 4 of most deserving and best in the nation that sits well with you? Because they don't have that many opportunities. They can't play for the conference championship knowing that they lost to Alabama. Like, literally, they just cannot do it mathematically. So what's it going to take for them to vault themselves into that conversation in your mind?
Everybody else having a problem. Like, to me, if I got to take a one-loss A&M team that got their butts kicked by Alabama, or I got to take Cincinnati as a conference champion, because remember, number of games played matters, and then conference championships matters. We've heard that from Gary Barta, even though we haven't necessarily always seen that. So Cincinnati wins the AAC, then I would put Cincinnati in over A&M, because you can't have the type of loss that they had. Now, I can already hear everybody again going off and saying, well, what would Alabama do to Cincinnati? Well, they probably kick their butts, but maybe not. We just haven't seen it. We have seen the way that this goes. The thing for A&M is they've got to hope at this point that Florida can't beat Alabama in the conference championship game. They got to hope that Notre Dame turns around and whoops up on Clemson, or that Ohio State doesn't get enough games played. Right. If any of those scenarios happen. So there's a very real scenario. But I think that what the committee's doing by keeping Florida where they are keeping Florida is they're giving Florida every opportunity to win. Even if Florida loses the SEC championship game and it's a close game against Alabama, the loss being better than A&M's loss, even with the head-to-head, I think that they are going to value that more. As crazy as that feels to say, they are going to value a quality loss over the win that A&M has. I think Florida would make it in over them.
I'm going to have some more chaos scenarios for you later, and we're going to get into that here on the College Football Show presented by AT&T 5G. But for now, let's talk about what is to come in your primetime matchup between two ACC foes. We got a little montage to fire us up, right? I'm pretty sure we got a little something for the people. We can take a look at the stadium. Empty is all outdoors. And as Dabo Swinney will allude to, these are the circumstances that we find ourselves in 2020. This is for the sake of public safety and everything like that. But it still doesn't mean that Clemson does not need to handle business against Virginia Tech tonight. And that's what it is.
Championships are won when the stands are empty.
After you lose the national championship, you're itching to get back.
Got a lot to prove and a lot to improve. Try to get to 1-0 each week.
What a throw by Treavor Lawrence.
A different sense of urgency this year.
We're all in.
So you see what it is on the College Football Show presented by AT&T 5G, your primetime matchup between two ACC schools in Clemson and Tech. And who better?
Why do you always get, like, you get the better team on your logo side every time?
They trying to tell you something.
Like,
you ain't have to address it. We could have gone about that subtly and kept it moving, but you had to draw attention to it.
Wow,
but we will move on because we have some guests to join in the discussion regarding these two teams. And that is one, Jordan Cornette, host of ACC Network's The Huddle. And I think we have...
Wait. While I'm on a roll asking important questions. All right, so, Jordan, let's just get this right out of the way. We're in a socially distanced studio and area. But I've got a weird question for you. If you had to give your level of, I don't know, let's say bendiness, like Gumby level of bendiness, where are you on the bendiness scale?
Very comfortable answering this. I've been asked it multiple times this week, randomly enough. I'm very bendy. What do you need?
Here's the thing.
How weird do you want to get?
Now that you've asked that, the rest of the show's about you. Okay, look, it's a family show here, Jordan. Okay, your shoes are fire tonight. I need the world to see them. Like, what do we got going on here? Like, is there some what is that, pink? Is that rosé? Like,
do you see that feet heat right there?
No,
these are some ones. And they're pink ones in honor of Jimmy V Week. Breast cancer, the color for that is pink. So naturally, I had to rock my pink street heat.
I like
matches
that.
the tie and the shirt.
Big fan.
Pretty good.
And it's coordinated.
Can we also acknowledge that if I wear pink feet heat, as the kids say? Let's go. Okay, go ahead.
There's
ask
a
your
lot of things
question.
wrong with Fitz is going down the road of. We go protect him in the interest of this show. So to go back to the very first quote that Dabo had in that montage that we just watched of championships are being won with no fans in the stands. This is a different level of championship and different setting in all together when it comes to Clemson in pursuit of the national title. They need style points tonight, but how many, in your opinion, against Virginia Tech?
Yeah, T-Scales, it's a slippery slope. As a former football player yourself, you know if you go into a contest against an inferior opponent thinking not only do we need to win, but we need to win massively, it can get you outside of what you normally do. But truth be told, they need the style points. This is a team with one loss, albeit without James Skalski, the linebacker, the quarterback of the defense, and, of course, all-world Treavor Lawrence in that matchup in South Bend. They are now healthy, but they've got to show now that we're healthy, now that we're right, we are world beaters. And that starts with going down here into Blacksburg. It won't be a rowdy crowd because of the COVID era we're living in, but they got to go out there and truly show out to say that was an anomaly. That was a lucky break in South Bend that Notre Dame got, not seeing us at full go. But when we're at full go, we are not only one of the best teams, we are the best team. That's how Dabo and that's how this unit's approaching it tonight.
When you talk about one of the best, on some of the digital shows we've looked at the best rivalries, and one of the best current college football rivalries is absolutely Alabama versus Clemson. We've spent so much time talking about Clemson and Notre Dame. What are your thoughts on where Clemson stacks up against this Alabama team this year?
Yeah, and I wouldn't be so quick to ignore the rivalry that's budding here with Notre Dame and Clemson, especially if that matchup, if we get to it in the conference championship, is another classic. But to answer your question, Fitz, I look at Alabama, and I think a lot of people are living off of the past. And not to say Alabama is not a really good team this year. They absolutely are that. They're worthy of the #1 ranking. Mac Jones is a Heisman frontrunner, and for good reason. The offense scores a lot of points. The defense, I've seen them be vulnerable at times. A team like Notre Dame against Alabama, I envision them controlling clock, being able to run the football a little bit, then taking opportunities against a secondary that does occasionally give up the big play. Clemson would be able to do the same in that kind of matchup. So Alabama, by no stretch of the imagination, is this a season where you go, it's Alabama and the rest. Any of these teams up top match up favorably in different ways. And whoever you get as the Final Four, those are going to be classic matchups. No lopsided games in that I can see.
Speaking of lopsided games, there's at least the fear that we may have one tonight as Clemson takes on Virginia Tech. And, you know, when Justin Fuentes came over from Memphis to Virginia Tech, I really thought we were going to see sort of the continuation of that program's ability to remain relevant. That hasn't necessarily been the case. How would you assess right now where Virginia Tech is with Fuentes?
Well, Coach Fuente can't figure out what to do with the quarterback position. I mean, to me, I look at Hendon Hooker, and I look at a massive talent. I look at a dual-threat guy that's just not properly being used in the scheme. I think there's a lack of trust there for him to truly drop back in the pocket and make plays, or for him to call his own number. I feel like he's limited in what his true skill set is. Quincy Patterson is a quarterback on that roster that's elected to transfer, and I think it speaks to what may be somewhat of a problem in the quarterback room there. Purely speculative, but that's just what I see. What I do know about the Hokies is their run game is as good as any in the country. It's a top 5 run game that averages better than 250 yards on the ground because of playmakers like Hendon Hooker at the QB position, but also Khalil Herbert, when healthy in his 7 games, is nearly rushing for 1,000 yards. The Hokies also get after the quarterback, and if they're able to in any way be disruptive, generate some turnovers, you know it's a great equalizer in a formula to an upset. Can they get after Treavor Lawrence? That offensive line for Clemson is at times vulnerable. If there's any chance of a miracle, it's the fact that they're able to run the football, these Hokies, and at times get home to Treavor Lawrence.
Pardon me for the delayed follow-up here, but you touched on the potential matchup going down on December 19th between Notre Dame and Clemson. I'd like to drive in on that because what we've seen early on from Notre Dame was a little bit shaky, but they've since found their footing, and we expect Clemson to roll this evening. Your way too early prediction as to how this rematch unfolds is what?
Well, T-Scales, keep in mind, it's not really that early. Yes, Clemson needs to take care of business versus Virginia Tech. They are over 3-score favorites tonight. We expect that to happen. The beauty of this matchup is then if that does happen with Clemson and Virginia Tech, both teams have a full week to prepare and go 2 weeks into that matchup. 2 weeks for Dabo, 2 weeks for Brian Kelly to prepare for one another and what they can bring. The ACC title game has for so long in recent history been an afterthought. No more this year. These are 2 teams that will be ripe and ready for each other. Insert Treavor Lawrence and what he's meant to that Clemson program. Insert Ian Book and what he's become there at Notre Dame. Now the all-time winningest quarterback in Notre Dame history. It's going to be a fascinating watch. I really think it's a toss-up, and that's a huge win for Notre Dame because so many years prior, think of 2018 in the Cotton Bowl CFP semifinal where they lost to Clemson. Think about 2012, a blowout loss to Bama in a title game 45-14. This is the one time that I truly feel confident they match up in an equal footing in an equal matchup here.
Nah, they're going to get their butts kicked by now.
There we go.
Yeah, I got to double down on it, man. All right.
I go long. I deserve that. I was talking forever.
You know what?
I deserve that.
Before we let you go, in a moment of sincerity, it has come to our attention, thanks to social media, that the Cornette family is about to grow by one. So we want to say, first and foremost, congratulations to you and your beautiful, amazing, incredible wife.
Thank you.
Shay, absolutely awesome. Number two, Jason is a great name, by the way. I was going to be Jason, male or female, so, like, I don't know if you've thought about it, but J-A-Y if it was a girl. Like, you know, Jason is a good name.
You know what,
It
George?
was always going to be Fitzy, actually. That's what we were going with.
I was going to say, you didn't even have to entertain that mess. But you know what? That's fine. I appreciate you entertaining Fitzy for this one.
Wow.
That is George Cornette, host of The Huddle over on ACC Network, 10 a.m.
Wait.
Make sure you catch him then.
Just don't do what Trevor's. Look, I love Trevor to death, but you know how many times I misspell Trevor? Like, pick a name that everybody can spell easily so that your child doesn't have to spend the rest of their life spelling it out for every person they ever talk to.
T-Scales, you don't need to be bullied like that.
Oh, I'm
man.
good.
Keep being you.
The reason we'll not have this slander on my name.
Treavor.
Nope. Stop there. Big Ten football, Indiana, Wisconsin. A minute and 2 left in the first, and oh my, Graham Mertz face stretched.
Mertz hurts?
Yes, Mertz is probably hurting. Pretty good. 11-10 in the second now. Jack Tuttle finds an open Peyton Hendershot in the back of the end zone to get on the board for the Badgers. Then, in the third, Jack Tuttle to your boy, Ty Freifogel. Heck of a catch here, too. Goes up. That's a low-key and one, too. Jersey getting tugged and everything. Ty Freifogel brings that one in. A few plays later, it's Tuttle to Whop Filer in the end zone to put the Hoosiers up 14-3. Now, Wisconsin would do their best to come back, but the Indiana defense would come through. Jamar Johnson with the interception. And a few plays later, 52 seconds left. Jack Tuttle fumbles trying to pick up the first down on a QB sneak. Scotty ball, and then 52 seconds remaining in the game. Mertz into the end zone, incomplete. That would do it for Wisconsin. They go down 14-6.
All right, get you an update here on Navy Tulsa. Team's coming out of the tunnels looking pumped, getting ready for it. Tulsa's ball. Zach Smith drops back, finds Josh Johnson for a 66-yard touchdown. 19-6. The final score on that one.
Head over to the Big 12. Oklahoma State hoping to get into the Big 12 Conference Championship, playing visitors, to the TCU Horned Frogs. And 8:05 left in the fourth. Max Duggan scrambling, then chucks it up to Darius Davis. Hauls it in, a 71-yard score. DB left on his face. TCU would go up 29-22 after converting the 2-point attempt. Ensuing possession late in the fourth. Oklahoma State. Spencer Sanders fakes a handoff, then takes it himself. What looks like could be the game-tying touchdown. Semicolon, however, left foot out of bounds at about the 5 and 10. What we like inside the 10-yard line? I don't know why he's talking all that crazy stuff, because he might want to chill out with all that. Then 4:23 left in the game. Trevon Moore gets the last laugh. The pick in the back of the end zone would end the Cowboys' hopes of a Big 12 championship. TCU goes on to win 29-22.
Get you an update here on BYU taking on Coastal Carolina. Earlier we told you 13-7. Look at that run, sticking on the sidelines.
Wait, did they forget to tackle him?
Well, I mean, forget is a tough word. It
looked like they were just absent-minded. Look. He's very clearly.
Now we got the Hail Mary intercepted.
Whammy.
Both benches, by the way, were unhappy with this one. Why? Oh, look at that. They're going after Zach Wilson. What are they doing?
I mean, he's a part of the game. Like,
but come on.
Don't get the same
what are they doing to look at the bench? I don't blame them at all. I'll be peel behind the curtain. We didn't know what we were going to see here because we're hosting the dang show while it's going on. So they said there's a brawl. I'm watching that. If I'm a BYU fan, I am mad.
So to be clear, I would be right there with all the BYU teammates out there protecting my quarterback. Understand that. But I will also say, when you throw a pick, you are now a defender, and I have to block you. And that is the one time.
Two guys driving you down.
That's the one time where a quarterback is no longer just the quarterback on the field that gets the same protections that he does in game. And so, yeah, he going to get that work any chance they can.
Okay, I'm going to go back, though. I was hosting College Football Live on Friday on ESPN, right? And I was talking during the show to Dez and to Coach Jim Moore. And when I was talking about BYU, one thing that Moore said that really stuck in my head, Coach said, look, I played against this team. And there's a moment where you look around because of their faith and the mission trips that they take. They're typically a little older, a little more developed. And he said, I looked around and I realized, man, their corner is like a grown man with 3 kids. And my corner is a 17-year-old kid. Like, there is a size difference in this team to other teams. I'm just saying a lot of grown men just got very angry about this. So I wouldn't be surprised to see BYU come out with some fire.
Oh, without question. And they better be careful with it. They being the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers. In any case, a couple more takeaways that we can get to.
Well, and with that being said, BYU is a big part of the conversation. For Trev's takeaways, we like to give you sort of some of our thoughts from it. And I want to stick with BYU for a second because I want you to hear this. On Countdown to Game Day, Ryan McGee came out and hung out with us and was giving us we were having a normal, good old time talking all things Chanticleers, right? We're going through it all with Ryan McGee. And at the end, I made just asked him a question about, what it would take to try and get BYU in Cincinnati to play because that's a game all of us seem to be salivating for. His answer shocked me when he said this.
Hey, BYU tried. BYU tried. Tom Holmoe told me, he said he thought that Cincinnati game was going to happen. And so it almost happened. Maybe we'll get some bracket busters in the future because now the ADs cannot tell us anymore. It's 10 years to schedule a game. No. They just did it in 3 days. The problem was when they're moving around conference games. When you're independent, you can do whatever you want. But when you're in a conference, the priority is, taking care of the conference games that had to be rescheduled. And then the later you go into December, conference teams are playing in conference championship games. And, oh, by the way, BYU can't really schedule a game for the 19th. They might be getting ready for a bowl game on the 19th. So it ain't easy.
Think about what Ryan McGee just said there. BYU thought they had a game scheduled against Cincinnati, which would be epic right now. I mean, you're talking about the type of game that the committee wants to see, the college football fans want to see, and that could actually benefit both teams. As opposed to Coastal Carolina, who is below BYU in the rankings, no matter what they do in this game, I don't think it really helps them. They could have seen it. And he says, hey, AAC's got an obligation to the teams in their conference. Do they?
I do want to push back on one facet of that, though. I don't know how much it benefits Cincinnati, right? Like, the only way that benefits Cincinnati is if they doors BYU. They're sitting pretty where they are right now. They don't want to disturb where they are. If they tack on a conference championship, that only elevates them. Let me be careful because I was getting ready to say a turn of phrase that would have gotten me in trouble. I didn't want to imply that they are scared, but they are so good with where they are, they being Cincinnati at this very moment, and that they don't want to tarnish that. BYU had everything to gain from that matchup, and that's exactly why they were trying to get those dudes on the phone. But to your point, again, they have an obligation to that conference, and that's what they can lean on when it comes to policy of scheduling.
I mean, let's face it, the most thinly veiled secret in all of college football seems to be that the Big Ten found a way to bring football back just so Ohio State could try and win a national championship. If I'm the AAC and I have watched UCF not get in, and I have watched it happen repeatedly, and now I got a team in Cincinnati that has suddenly got a realistic shot at the playoffs, and I'm trying to answer the question of how I make the investment in football worthwhile, and I sincerely mean that. Memphis, Cincinnati, UCF, USF, these are schools that have spent money building football programs that are now relevant and good. If I've got an opportunity to do something, even if it means breaking everything out from what I usually do, and it helps Cincinnati get into the college football playoff, not only should I want to do that, I have an obligation to do that because it helps every single school within that program have a better shot at winning it all. I was stunned by McGee's just flip it. Yeah, they tried to do it, but it fell apart because of the AAC. Shame on you, AAC, if you didn't get this scheduled and you had an opportunity.
Look, we talked about it before the show went on air about how every conference is trying to put their very best team into this playoff. And that's the general policy of every single year. You want your best teams in there. Or if you're the likes of the ACC or SEC, get as many jokers as you can in there. Fill up the schedule to say you can claim a national champion within your conference. All that to say, I agree with you that the AAC should have provided this opportunity for Cincinnati, but I also understand how they look at that situation and say, Well, what do we actually have to gain from it if we do not endorse this team that we see can compete with just about anybody?
Well, but it's a little bit like that leverage conversation. We talk about analytics. You and I were yelling at the TV during the Texas A&M Auburn game because it was an 8-point game and they're talking about whether or not to go for it on fourth, all these analytics things. Well, I would turn back and say analytics and money matter, right? If Cincinnati gets into the college football playoff, there is a sizable payout that goes to the entire conference, not just to the team that goes, but the entire conference. And part of the reason that the Ohio State thing matters so much to the Big Ten is they want the share of that cash, right? If I'm the AAC, I'm looking around saying, what do we make more money off of? The way, are we going to make more money off of a small game that nobody's watching? Or do we get ourselves this game, which could also then possibly get us a playoff game, which is a massive pay. I mean, right now, if I'm Memphis, and I keep using Memphis because last year game day was at Memphis, and, one of the stories that really hit me was finding out about Memphis, I think it was about 10 years ago or so. The program, they considered shutting it down. They considered eliminating football altogether because the returns weren't there. And instead, they did the opposite. They put real money into it, and they said, what can we grow? And then all of a sudden, 10 years later, game day is in Memphis. I'm looking at that, and I'm saying, man, if you have the opportunity to reward that investment that you're asking schools to make to be relevant, you have to do it. And I get what you're saying, but I mean, the committee is looking for a reason. And putting Cincinnati at 7, they are looking for a reason to get Cincinnati into this playoff. I think a game against BYU would have helped.
Speaking of the committee's assessments of teams, Indiana, an interesting point.
Segue,
hey, try to be a professional every now and again. Don't give me too much credit, though. Indiana sitting at 12, despite the loss of Michael Penix Jr. for the rest of the year. They eke out a 14-6 win over a Wisconsin team that most perceive to be solid in most regards, defensively especially. So how do we assess the committee's assessment of Indiana despite losing their best player on the roster?
I mean, realistically, he went out on Sunday. They kept him at 12 a couple of days later. That's a little bit about Indiana, and I think that's a lot about Ohio State. And this is one thing we talked about on Rankings Reaction. Like, is there a spot where they want to continue to give value to certain opponents because it raises the overall strength of schedule? Look at Ohio State's wins so far this year. They beat a trash Nebraska team. They beat a trash Penn State team. They beat a trash Rutgers team. Forgive me if I'm using the same adjective to how about this? Today they beat a hot garbage Michigan State team.
Elevated.
So all of a sudden what you have are 4 wins over teams that are no better than what Cincinnati has beaten in the AAC. Let's just be real for a second. But you got number 12, Indiana. Oh, they beat Indiana. Indiana's number 12, even without their starting quarterback. I think there's a little bit here of it gives credit to a team that Ohio State played, which gives them the opportunity to still have a key win. It also gives them some wiggle room with the Big Ten. Right. Should Indiana do the unthinkable and win all of this and go into the Big Ten championship game because Ohio State doesn't play enough games, it leaves them some strange path, albeit a very convoluted one, to get into the playoffs themselves.
It does, and I can see them being justified just because of what they did against Ohio State, keeping it close, but I still hitch because their best player, the reason that they were in that game, is gone. But speaking of ways to kind of weasel your way into the playoffs, I think Fitz's 5 will open that discussion up well.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, liftoff.
What's better than the soft glow of Christmas lights while you listen to Bing Crosby croon classics in the background? Nothing, but almost as good. Fitz's 5.
Fine. We can reference a dead crooner. That
was a very specific reference that I hope took you to a happy Christmas place. All right, this is what we do every week. We rank a top 5 of something, and in honor of the college football playoff rankings process, we've decided we're going to do a little fun with that. What we're going to do is we're going to rank the top 5, but not the top 5. No, the top 5 not in the top 4. That's right, the top 5 teams trying to bust their way in, who has the best shot at getting in. So it's not what we think's the best, it's who we think has the best shot. To start this process, though, want to remind you of what the College Football Playoff Committee decided with their rankings, brought to you by Capital One. At number 10, Miami. Number 9, Iowa State with the rise that surprised a lot of us. Number 8, Georgia. Still wondering who they have naked pictures of to be that high. At number 7, Cincinnati. Number 6, Florida. Number 5, Texas A&M. I think Trevor's just going to walk off the show at some point. At number 4, Ohio State. OHIO. At 3, Clemson. 2, Notre Dame. 1, Alabama. So those are our top 10 across the board. Now we're going to put up some teams on the list. And again, we're going to rank our top 5 not on that list that still have the best shot. Right. So in honor of that and with the spirit of that, I'll go first. And my top team that has the chance to get in, because every single week I tell you about it, it's Cincinnati. And for everybody that says, oh, no, all these things have to go right. No! Cincinnati has a great and legitimate shot at the playoff. They have a championship game that they'll be able to play in with the AAC, presuming all goes well. BYU doesn't have that leverage. The committee's already told you they don't respect BYU. They do respect Cincinnati. There's enough in front of them. I think Cincinnati not only has a shot, I will continue to say they are going to the playoff this year. So they're my number 1. At number 2 on the list, I'm going with Florida. And look, Florida had a moment in this game today against Tennessee where you and I were both questioning how good they can be. I do not question how good Pitts and Trask are. Sounds like a cop duo. Pitts and Trask coming at you.
Good
ESPN. Right. It sounds like an American classic. Next up on the list for me, I'm putting in, and I know I don't love this call, but the committee just told you they want the Big 12 to get in. That's the only way I can figure out the meteoric rise, not just for Oklahoma State, which turned out in less than a week to be worthless, but also for Iowa State. They come in, they get their way up there. So I feel pretty good about that one. And because of the same thing, because of the Big 12 poll, I will put Oklahoma in at number 4. Look, Oklahoma reminds me a little bit of USC. A few years ago when Clay Helton had Sam Darnold, didn't go well the first 3 games, and all of a sudden, by the end of the year, they're playing lights out. I think Oklahoma has put themselves in too big of a hole. But if you're asking me if the committee will see them as one of the top 4, I think they have the viable shot there, because I'm putting in Texas A&M at number 5. And before SEC fans yell at me, I will remind you, you got your butt whooped by Alabama. I just think that's too much. And maybe this is the one year where suddenly the committee forgives it. And you can tell me that A&M has the head-to-head win over Florida. But remember, A&M won't get a conference championship game. Florida will. The reason Florida's second on this list to me is because Florida will still have a shot at Alabama in the SEC championship.
I cannot disagree at all with your top 2. I'm going to go ahead and list them just that exact way, and in large part for the exact same reasons, because of what Cincinnati deserves from the points of info that we have on their timelines at this point. They've proven that they can play with just about anybody. Florida doing the same thing, particularly on offense as soon as they got going against Tennessee. In that 3 slot, I'm actually just going to see what the committee ends up doing and go with TAMU, because for some reason the committee likes TAMU. And if they sort of continue to make this run and just kind of hang around, and if we get a doomsday scenario within the SEC championship of somebody ended up getting booted out because of a blowout performance, then who knows? If TAMU is sitting there having not lost, then the committee clearly has just said, we like them just by default. So I can see them taking that same train of logic. Next up, sure, it's biased, but I do think that because, again, same principle of TAMU being
Santa Claus is taking all of your presents away. You are getting lumps of coal, sir.
Totally fine. But if they're at 8 now with 2 losses, and again, if we have people just getting doors in the SEC championship and they're hanging around, it looks like the committee just likes to pick them up and say, we will go off of merit based on past performances or whatever have you to pick them. And in that last slot, I know that the committee has sort of downed them and said that their performances against the schedule that they have aren't enough.
Don't you do it. Don't you
I'm going to do it, because I know you're telling me not to do this, but I'm going to do it. Yeah. Go ahead, crash the party, because if not this year, then when, first of all. Secondly, BYU has a perfect scenario to sort of work out in front of them to where we can have all the chaos that we could ever want. Ohio State doesn't play another game. Very real possibility. Alabama gets doorsed, or Alabama doors their opponent in the SEC championship, whomever comes out, right? Then we move down to, who is it, Clemson? They get doors in the ACC championship. So we only have 2 slots there. And then we're going to figure out one of either, because it's either Florida or Texas A&M. Neither one of them can move up if we have that doomsday scenario of an SEC team blowing out the SEC East champion. And then who else are you going to pick from? Like, we're left with a void that, like, if Cincy loses in the AAC championship, that, like, allows for a random team to sneak in there. And why not BYU if they take care of business handily against Coastal Carolina?
All I'll say is this. Your logic makes a ton of sense. I believe that BYU is a far better team. This is not my opinion on who the best teams are. This is the path that I think the committee's laid out. Under the exact scenario you just laid out, right or wrong, I don't agree with this, but this is what I think the committee would do. I think they would put a 2-loss Iowa State team in over BYU.
I can't
which
disagree
is
with that.
gross. I mean, it is absolutely like I wish I could give everybody a better, more positive answer, but I think that's what the committee will do.
I can't disagree with that. They've shown time and time again that they like the Cyclones for whatever reason.
I don't understand it.
4 teams, 2 semifinals, New Year's Day. The college football playoff lives on ESPN.
It certainly does, and bruh lives here on the College Football Show presented by AT&T 5G. Treavor Scales, Jason Fitz here with you, bruh, delivered by Pizza Hut. We will take care of you and get all these jokes off from the course of the day of foolish plays made by college students.
So now it's okay for me to make my great puns and jokes.
There's never a great time for that, frankly. We'll begin with Auburn and Texas A&M, and you roasted this brother before. Zakoby McClain, I feel for you. Like, you were in position, hands was up.
He still got like butter on the hands from like Thanksgiving dinner, like one too many rolls.
Sure.
And just,
yeah, I mean, like a week and change, late, but...
Look, I'm still eating the leftovers, so don't even come at me with that.
Kellen Mond winds up with a touchdown, regardless of what was on that brother's gloves. Oklahoma State kicker making an appearance, 37 yards out. It's wider than wide. Wider than wide. I don't even know how to... It was a knuckleball. And even his teammates felt the same way as this front-end animation looks.
They walked away from him a lot like you walk away from me after most shows. Like just sort of a level of disgust for what just happened to their careers.
If I could do it in show, I would.
But it was a long one. It was 37 yards.
It's just,
okay.
Next up, Kansas State quarterback Will Howard, looking for his wide receiver, finds a ref, head on a swivel.
He just thought we were playing soccer. That's all. Like
he was so messed up afterwards, he put his mask over his eyes.
Oh, look at that.
He didn't know what to do.
I kind of want to see him actually catch it and run it back. Just see how far it can go.
Just immediately turns into a pick
six. It's a pick six.
That would be awesome. I want that to happen now, more than ever.
He'd be in top plays then if he did that.
Yeah, he gets moved up to holy cow in our show. Oh. I just love that so much. It's so great. Tulane is up next. It's a trick play, except the trick was on them. Up 7. Amari Jones gets a chance to throw up a duck is what wound up being tossed up into the air. Ends up getting intercepted by Memphis's Quindell Johnson. Nice little return for 31 yards, but brother, I think that got pulled from the playbook as soon as you threw that duck out there.
I mean, what do you even?
You say, I laugh and so he's in by himself, and I find it hilarious.
I mean, the process here, okay, where did you go to get your ticket? When you bought your ticket, were you happy with your ticket? When you walked up the stairs, did you ever say, you know what? And we've all got that one friend that buys a bad ticket to a game or a concert and then decides midway through they're going to sneak down to the better seats. Is there a moment where you're like, I'm good. I'm going to move down here at this point. I mean, and then did he ever make a TikTok video where he sang All By Myself? That's what I want. Full Celine Dion.
Next one, Indiana wide receiver Miles Marshall. Bare booty open. He was all by himself, too. And, yeah, bruh, that's about the only reaction you can have. I am so sorry for you. Everybody's sorry for you. Just bare booty open. It's that's a bad look. You're lucky y'all won that game.
Looked a lot like me in elementary school playing pickup football and PE.
Just any sport, frankly.
That's
Holy cow.
fair.
We in here. The very best plays of the day. And it comes down to, and it starts out in high school because we've seen this clip go viral the entire time. And my man's here.
Oh, look at this.
Out of Gilbert, Arizona.
Oh!
Cal Milner, head of the Cal.
Fake. Oh.
Ty Milner, excuse me. Gets the play action move, rotation, and just over the back so casually. The level of disrespect in this play kicks it up to a 92 for your boy.
I mean, what's it going to take to get a better rating than that? Good Lord, a 92. Okay, let's see if I can get you a better rating. We'll go to the next play because I'm into trick plays. You're into trick plays. Let's see if we can get the next trick play rolling in here. And this one comes from Notre Dame. The Leprechaun catches the ball with his foot, kicks it through the up Brights.
Oh.
Now, I got a little bias here. Last year, traveling with Countdown to Game Day, got to hang out with the Leprechaun. Felt like a cool kid.
Oh, nice.
I did. I didn't see any of that trickery, though.
I would have been more impressed if he got it, like, off the ground, frankly. Like, you know how, like, the soccer players kick it off
you're not impressed with that?
I didn't say I was not impressed. I said I would have been more impressed.
As a man with tight hamstrings, I appreciate his ability to combine hacky sack and field goal kicking. 99.
Oh, right up on the brink of
99.
I look, again, it's not that I don't appreciate it. I just think I would appreciate it more if he had done something a little bit more. Adrian Martinez, I thought this was a great effort as well. I'm not hating. I think this was good. Like, right, it was solid. Running through all kinds of Purdue defenders.
He's really laying on him.
Yeah, just, okay, let's not take the hate that far, Fitz. Okay, like, this is an extremely athletic play that neither one of us in this current state would be able to make.
Well, that is, if that's a criteria for holy cow, then every Saturday plays on there for me.
Touche. 83, I think, is a fair rating for what that brother put forth. Adrian Martinez out of Nebraska. Solid job there.
We've seen this one, but you gotta see it to believe it. Oh, look at the run by Bo Nix. Bo knows how to be slippery, slidey, sliding away. Gets that big old TD out of that one. I am in love with this play, and it gives me a third time to say, swiggity swooty, he coming for that booty. I'm just saying it never gets old.
It doesn't have to be that, though. Like, it does not have to be that.
For this one, he gets a 92. I didn't like the celebration afterwards. It was a little wet fishish. I wanted it to be a little bit better in the celly. Otherwise,
unadulterated joy is not dead fish.
Well, I mean...
This is what I was mad at Fitz at.
Use it. Nobody will know. Nobody will know. You can take it.
The thick six. Shouts to Mike Golick Jr. But man, getting the deflection for Ohio State. Haskell Garrett batting the ball up, reeling it in, and gets the pass breakup and interception for 6. Courtesy of the name alone of Thick Six, 92 for your boy.
Yeah, a lot of credit to Mike Golick Jr.
Yeah,
on that.
definitely.
All right, so we've got next up Arkansas. 43 seconds left in the game, going for 2 and the lead. Oh, and look at this. Just slits in there. Oh, I mean, that is just. Look at this again. Check the replay. He's out there. He's telling him where to go.
Right.
Then he puts the ball right in the
See, okay. So I feel like there should be a deduction in order because the quarterback pointed for his receiver to go somewhere and threw it right to the defender.
You are absolutely right. And I thought about that when I scored it, which is why I would usually give this a very low score because a bad play doth not make a holy cow. But 'tis the Christmas season. I'm feeling like giving. I gave it 90.
Makes no sense. None of this. That's not how any of this works. Lastly,
Oh!
All right, so again, pulling back the curtain. Your boys didn't see this one before we aired it. Going all out is Spencer Sanders over the top in this OSU TCU game. I think he's okay, right? He's all good, right? Yeah, standing upright.
We're trying to make sure he's good before we crack off any jokes about it, but my God.
We're good. I think he's safe. I think we're all good. He ended up coming back in. What did the control room get us one? Double move worthy, evidently, for the control room.
I think Tyler that works on the show does a great job for the show. Tyler scored that one. I think Tyler might be getting a little soft.
A little generous.
Like, Tyler's a big Notre Dame fan. I think he might have been having a little bit of the leprechaun juice or something. Was feeling a little froggy. A little bit of green beer somewhere along the way. Gave that the double 100. If he'd have landed on his feet, double 100.
Okay.
But he landed on his face. I would have given that like an 83.
I think that's a fair assessment. Continuing to hand out accolades. AT&T countdown to the College Football Playoff National Championship. The award of the day goes to one Justin Fields, who was dropping dimes in the air and also finding his way into the end zone with his feet. The man had over 100 yards rushing, but to be clear, it wasn't just scrambling in the way that he was getting it done. 4 rushes for 75 yards and a score on designed runs. So that Ohio State Buckeyes shows a little versatility when it comes to their run game. Justin Fields specifically shows a little versatility within his overall game.
There is no question, for as much as we've talked about Ohio State today and where the committee has ranked them and what they need to do, Let me say clearly, there is no question in my mind that Ohio State is an incredible football team and that Justin Fields is an incredible football player. He showed it again today. Well, these are some of the games going on right now across the ESPN family of networks. Oregon, which has had a confusing season to say the least, finds themselves trailing Cal. Has not been great for Cal either coming into this one. In the SEC, Kentucky, South Carolina, you see they're tied at nothing. Utah, Oregon State coming up later. Miami, Duke coming up later. And in the game right now that everybody's watching, Clemson, Virginia Tech. In fact, we're going to get you a live look at one of the fun and fancy things we can do here.
Yeah.
Tied at nothing with 9:16 to go in the first. And this is where I think we expect that Clemson will be able to get it done, but a little bit of confusion there on third.
No doubt, no doubt. And look, we talked about it with Jordan Cornette, the necessity for the Tigers to get some real style points out of this one. They need to kind of get rolling quickly, put this game to bed early so that we can all sort of say, all right, let's have this discussion about who we are going to take in this ACC championship between them and Notre Dame.
Yeah, let's be real. I mean, as much as we've talked about whatever opportunity Notre Dame had to lose a game and still be fine, Clemson has no wiggle room at this point. So everything is about style. Everything is about how they turn around and sort of get this done. And Virginia Tech, this is sort of a reminder of what used to be. And I talked about it with Jordan earlier, and I'll mention it again. I mean, I really had high hopes for Justin Fuente coming from Memphis to Virginia Tech. I thought he was a great coaching hire for them. And Blacksburg for years has just been such a scary place for opponents to play. And that's just not the case now. I mean, I'm not saying that the wheels have fallen off. Like, they've still had an okay year. But Virginia Tech, I think, had hopes of being better than okay year in and year out.
And what they were always known for is a solid defense. And shouts to this defensive performance that they just got out of their defense, holding Clemson at 3rd and 8 to a no gain. They force them into the field goal, which is good. Tigers go up 3-0. But to your point regarding Justin Fuentes and what he was supposed to walk into and sort of, take it to the next level. Take this program back into the national acclaim that Frank Beamer had it at one point. And that just hasn't happened to this point. They struggled against Liberty and teams that you feel like they should not have struggled against. So where is this team going to find its identity? Maybe they find it in this game and spin it forward, but it's going to take a lot.
Identity is such an important, when you look at the programs that are consistently relevant, and I'm not even saying good, I'm just saying relevant.
Yeah.
They have a certain identity. If you go, and Frank Beamer during that era, you're right, defense and special teams, right?
Yes.
Like, you knew they were going to get that done that way. And the reason you stayed up late to watch Hokie highlights was because you knew that in the middle of the night you were going to get some sort of crazy punt return or some sort of a block kick. Like, that was part of their identity. I'm not sure. And the thing is, Justin Fuente started the build of really what is the problem in Memphis, or the program in Memphis. He started that build. Memphis has an identity as a football program right now. I'm just not sure that identity came with Fuente to Virginia Tech. That's part of what has to happen, and a signature win over a team like Clemson could do that.
And also, I want to give them credit and leeway that it takes time to do that, right? Like, when you get a new coaching staff in there, it takes a recruiting class or two. It takes just time, and maybe they're going to afford them that time depending on just how close and how promising things look for the Virginia Tech Hokies. This is the College Football Show presented by AT&T 5G, and we got some things to close out the show, and it begins with, before we get up out of here, we will check in with quite a few different things. Stanford and Washington leading us off. And for your knowledge, oh my God, we have never seen these plays before. But
put the lotion in the basket. Look at that.
Oh, what? No, we
put
can't.
The lotion in
no, I know. Silence of the Lambs. Yes, I get it. But stop. No, that's not okay.
It was such a great catch.
No, yes. What?
The biscuit in the basket's like a
lotion on its skin and scent. No. That can't be okay.
You double down on it.
You leave that at my feet and say, Trevor, do with this what you will. I now leave this transition to you.
There is no easy way to transition. Look, usually on a show like tonight in December, I would be dressed head to toe like a dork in all sorts of Christmas gear. I'm not today. I'm wearing the Booyah shirt that you've seen all over the ESPN family of networks. Obviously, we've got it here. You can buy it, you can get it, and you can donate to it. So So, I'm doing this is my model pose. I don't know if there's this is something that ESPN's passionate about. And for anybody that's ever listened to ESPN radio, we talk a lot about it. We talk a lot about the V Foundation and what it means. Obviously, what we're trying to do in a very difficult year is continue the opportunity of giving and continuing the opportunity of hope. That is not an easy message for so many that are struggling so hard. So we ask at this point, you can see the address there. It's stewart.threadless.com. That's where you can go out and you can buy these T-shirts. It's a great way. 100% of the money goes to the Stuart Scott Memorial Cancer Research Fund. All of it is used for cancer research. All of it goes to a great place and a great cause. Again, I know it's a difficult year and this is a tough year to donate, but even $1 helps. And what we want to try and do as a network is try and continue spreading that message, even in a year that's been so difficult, so that we can continue the fight against cancer.
Without question, I could not have said it better myself. So make sure you check out stewart.threadless.com. $35 gets you a shirt, but more importantly, it goes to so much to further the research that is necessary.
For so many of us, we do what we do today because of the influence of Stuart Scott. So this is a small way to honor his legacy, honor his family, and honor the entire process of what he went through to try and help cancer for the future.
This is the College Football Show presented by AT&T 5G. We appreciate y'all kicking it with us for Week 14, another week in the books, and it's been fun. It's been a joyous occasion.
Before we get on out of here.
Before we get up out of here.
No, I'm making it my own. See, I get to make it my own now because this is the last week that we have Treavor Scales of this season. Treavor gets a little vacation time after this. I will say quickly, I don't know that I work with a better dude, a better human being, a better friend, and also a more qualified, incredible individual. You make Saturdays amazing. To get to sit with you all day and watch college football and prepare for this moment is incredible. To get to call you a friend is even better.
The pleasure is all mine, and truly, it really is a joy to work on this show with you and our entire staff. Stacy, Isaac, Tyler, Marissa, everybody that has joined this crew over some course of this 14 to 15 week season. Folks, it is a grind. What you see us up here doing, clowning for an hour, takes quite a bit of work to prepare to do said clowning. And we have one hell of a team to do that with us. And I cannot thank them enough year in and year out for the effort that they put forth. So thank you again.
If there's anything I know, the College Football Show will continue next week. He'll be on vacation. I'll still be here. We'll bring in some special guests over the next couple of weeks. And if you're just tuning in, you can catch us during the College Football Semifinal and the College Football Championship game as well. So we're just getting started. This is just a momentary pause. Just have to say we love Treavor Scales. Thank you so much for watching us on the AT&T College Football Show presented by AT&T.
Got it.